So this video is covering some of the new extraction tools and improved extraction tools that are in Trimble Business Centre 5.9. So what we have here inside this TBC project is Trimble X9 data, all external, and we're looking at, we just select the point cloud, we're looking at 200 million points sitting within Trimble Business Centre. Now, before we do any extraction, it's really important that we do our classification. Before we do our classification, it's very impressive to just take all the data, so all this data here, and if we do the classification, we get some we're really impressed by how well it extracts the buildings at distance and all the rest of it. But we're better to hone in the area that we're actually wanting to extract information and do a quick region of that area. So that's what we'll do first. So we just basically take the data into the 3D view and we basically just segment the area of interest. So I'm just going to basically slice it across here. I'm going to go back behind these trees along the area. I'm going to slice across this road. I'll slice behind these trees, across the road here, and behind these trees. And this is the only real place where we've got decent point cloud resolution. And then we can just go into here and say create region, and we'll just call this default new. And we've now got two regions inside Trimble Business Centre. If we look at the Cube Filter Manager on the left-hand side of the screen here, and if we just turn off the old default, then we're left with this area here. And if we click on that area here, we've got 187 million points. Now we can choose extract point cloud regions, and I'm going to start the command and then explain it. We're going to use outdoor terrestrial, select all the data, and we're just going to choose classify. And with that, what I will do is I will just jump across quickly and start my timer. So while this is running away in the background, timing this classification, one of the big improvements to Trimble Business Centre 5.9 is in this first step of classification. And the classification is so important when we're using a lot of the other tools. And this classification process is the first time that Trimble have used deep learning in the algorithms. So deep learning, it's a subset of machine learning, which tries to simulate the way the human brain learns from analysing large amounts of data. There's less pre-processing involved in machine learning. So machine learning will always do this pre-processing to get to a structured data set, whereas deep learning will basically use the unstructured data the way it is. And it automates feature extraction, which is essentially what we're doing here. We're extracting these various different classifications, and it's far less reliant on human intervention compared to machine learning, but ultimately it's the results that matter. Now what I'll do is I'm just going to pause the video and we'll let this complete. It's running just over 1 minute and 15 seconds, and we'll restart it once it's complete. So just over 5 minutes, and we've now got our classified point cloud. You can see the various different classifications that we have. So we've got ground extraction, we've got steps. I don't think we've got any steps in this project. We've got medium vegetation, which is this light green along the side here. That's a new option for Trimble Business Centre 5.9. We've got the high vegetation. We've got low point noise. So this is generally traffic and people that are getting in the way of the data. So we can see the traffic on the road here all being really nicely classified. We can see a person walking down the pavement here that's been classified nicely. And that is stuff that just gets in our way as soon as we're starting to extract data. So we can just turn that off and get rid of it. And all the cars in the car park, again, we're seeing that it's been classified as noise and we can get rid of it. There's also the buildings, which is in the blue. And then in the dark blue, we've got another new classification in Trimble Business Centre 5.9, which is this dividers classification, which we can see along here. And then we've got poles, which is this, I think it's only lamp posts that we have here. So just all these lamp posts. I don't think we've got any telegraph poles or electricity poles, so they would be classified as well. We've got signs. So this is a cyan color. So here, we've got 3, and again, accuracy of the classification has been very good, and there's no power lines in this project. What you will see is the classification is always better where the data is more complete. So as we go towards the side of the data set where things have only been scanned from one location, the accuracy of the classification will not be as good. And that is just typical for every data set. What we'll do is we can just close this tool. What I'll do before I close it is there is this new option called Refine Classification. So you can see here on the sign, then there's areas that's not quite classified correctly. It's not important in this situation, but what we can do is we could try and just refine the poles and signs. And what it's going to do is just going to go through the data again and see if it can actually refine these two regions. So it's working its way through there. It won't take long. Sometimes it won't make any difference. Sometimes it will. We'll just see if it makes any difference here. Which it does. It tidies up that sign classification very well. So to look at this more detail, I'll just close the tool, and then across to the View Filter Manager on the left-hand side, we can see that we've basically got, first of all, starting with the ground classification, and this has improved so much over the various releases of Trimble Business Center. But 5.9, it's improved so much better that we're basically just doing such a fantastic extraction of what's the ground surface. So we can see here that it's keeping what feels to be the point cloud data that represents the grounds very, very well. It's never going to be perfect, but it's really, the accuracy is improving so well. Then what we've got is we can look at the dividers. So this is this new classification, which is for fences and walls. And again, it's done a really, really good job in classifying that. And in one of the next videos, we can show you how that data can be used to actually extract the features themselves. The high vegetation, it's been improving in all the TBC releases, and this is, in this release, it's better once again. It's never going to be perfect, so I can see there's a traffic cone here that's not quite being classified correctly. It's been classified as a tree, which it definitely isn't. But when we go to extract our trees, then it won't be extracted as a tree anyway. So it's only if we were handling this classification across our client that I'd really be too concerned with that, about tidying it up. So it looks pretty good. Once again, there's a part of a lamppost that's been classified as a tree, and again, we could quickly go in there and tidy it up if we wanted to. But very good classification on our high vegetation. And our medium vegetation, this is a new classification. This is stuff that we just want to throw a cloud around when we're doing our topo survey, but we generally don't want to extract any information from it. So it's stuff that just gets in the way, and the fact that we can classify it and turn it off and get it out of the point cloud is just a fantastic new option that has just come into that last release. Now we look at the signs. Once again, signs are being classified very well. So we've got 3 signs around the car park that's been classified. And then we have finally the buildings. Again, there's maybe just something that's not quite been classified quite correctly here. So if I wanted to push that data back into the buildings, this is shown as ground surface. And again, the buildings generally, it works much better on normal shaped buildings. The fact that this is a sloping building, it never works quite so well on. But I can just quickly select that data, and I can say, let's just move that back into the buildings region and add it. And then there's all the other data. So we've got the noise, first of all, which is all this stuff here. And it's actually eaten away at part of our building. So once again, if this was really important, we were handling these classifications across our client, then I could quickly go in here and just reclassify it, and I could do it much more tidily than this if I wanted to. So I can just choose add to region and just add that data back into the buildings. But generally, all that noise is true noise, passing cars, passing people. And the fact that it just gets out of that data set, it's data that I never want to digitize from, it's data that I never want to pass over to a client. It's just automatically stripped out, and we can get rid of it. There's all the other data, which is basically data that just doesn't look like noise, but it doesn't comply to any of the rest of the classes that we have. So this is things like this car charger that we have in our wheelie bins might be relevant, our survey pillar that's beside our building. And if that is stuff that we want to keep, then we can just pass on this classification, export it with it, or we can quickly, so if I want to quickly use this, we can say create car, a new region, and we'll call this car chargers. And we have a new region called car chargers, which we can then default. Sorry, we can then turn off. So once this classification is done, then we can start extracting our data